So this is a subject that one of our subscribers asked me in a private consultations. He said, how do you be happy? You seem so happy. And there's one thing I discovered about happiness or about contentment that I think could serve you today. Like most people, we all go through these different things in life, right? So life, being on earth is like going through Navy SEAL training. You deal with so much junk. You deal with relationship problems, you deal with personal problems, you deal with family problems, you deal with the world, you deal with the world's craziness, what the news is saying, fear of war, fear of sickness, fear of plague, all these different things. And then you also have to find yourself, find your career, maybe create a life for yourself, create a life for others. So it's like Navy SEAL training. And if you don't have a strong mind, or if you don't know yourself, the world could eat you alive. You may start to see yourself escaping through distracting yourself, pleasures, drugs, alcohol, things like that. The way I discovered to be happy is to return to my childhood state. So exactly what does that mean? So to preface this, I want to talk about how kids are born and what happens to us as we age. So to me, kids are born innocent. You're born in this bliss. If you ever see a kid, they just kind of look around. There's like an awe to the world. They're just exploring. They're enamored by everything. Everything is just sparking their interest because they've never seen this. You're put on like some new planet and you gotta figure it out. Your parents are there to help you. So our earliest form of learning is through observation and imitation. We are programmed with certain instincts as human beings, right? We have the instinct, the strongest instinct is self-preservation. Funny saying, it's like when I was a young kid, they used to tell me like, Yvan, what's the number one law of life? Is don't die. That's the first law of life, right? So that's what like our most primal instinct, self-preservation. And if you've ever been in a life or death situation, I remember in college, I was my buddy George I talked about earlier in the video, and some guys ran into our house. They broke into our house when we were moving our stuff in. And we were like in a life or death situation. And boy, if you want to see what you're made of, when you get in a life or death situation, that will teach you. And I've had maybe 3 instances in my life where I've had life or death situations. And I guess that was the universe, that was God, that was whatever my curriculum was for that year, that was what I had to endure. But so back to the point, the biggest instinct is our self-preservation instinct. Then there comes the reproduction instinct, the instinct to eat and live and things like that. So human beings are programmed with certain instincts, right? But our learning, the learning or the knowledge we need to go through this world is learned through observation and imitation, at least in our earlier stages. See, the birds primed to know how to fly south when the winter comes, right? But we have to be taught these things. We have to learn it through observation. So because we have to observe so much, we have to observe what's most around us, right? It's our environment. So we become like what we see. So if you grew up in an inner city, or if you grew up in an affluent community, if you grew up with your parents being charismatic or your family being outgoing, or you kind of take on those attributes because we have no choice. That's all we see. That's our world, right? Our world is like this little microcosm. Now, something that happens as children is that we have our parents that we think are perfect. And at some point in our life, we realize that our parents are human, right? So we may see these negative qualities in them and we start to resent them. Yeah. So when we resent our parents, we become like what we resent. So we go from this innocent state to like becoming angry or becoming frustrated or having a propensity to lie or steal or cheat or whatever that we see in our environment. So from maybe like 0 to like, let's say 11 or so, right? We are a product of our environment. We're a product of the programming we receive as children. That's even the same thing with religion. You're a product of the religion that you grew up with, right? Now there's a select few of us that reach some point of resistance, right? Maybe you're in your mid-teens, or sometimes it happens to people when they're 40. But for some reason, you start to think for yourself. You start to question exactly how you grew up, question the beliefs you learned or you held so near and dear to you as a young pup. You're like, I grew up going to church, I grew up going to the mosque, or I grew up believing this, or I grew up believing that. Is that really does that make sense to me in my life? Is that coherent with what I've seen in the world? So that process of challenging our beliefs and relearning and unlearning things when we actually have a voice for ourselves is what a lot of us are going through right now. So if you want to be happy, you need to return to that innocent state of non-judgment attention. You had that non-judge. So kids they operate through a state of non-judging, non-judgmental attention. So they're just observing, they're watching, they're taking things from their environment. And someday and at some point in life, that attention stops because they start to resent what they see in their environment. They're mistreated and they resent that, and then they become like what they resent. The moment you start to think for yourself and you return to that state of non-judgmental attention, meaning paying attention to exactly your environment, questioning your belief system, you can return back to that childhood state. You can return back to living life as you please. And I think that's the key to happiness. That's what we call self-actualization. See, a lot of pleasures in the world are fleeting. And I know you experience some fun and distractions and all these different things are fleeting. But What's stable is self-actualizing, returning back to who you were in your most authentic state. So again, how do you identify how to return to who you were before the world corrupted you? First thing is to identify your triggers. So we go through life and we deal with different situations, right? I think situations are there to teach us. You may be going out, you may be driving, and someone cuts you off, and bam, now you get frustrated. You start to flip off the guy, you start to yell, and you guys are fighting like this, right? So what surfaced is an emotion that you suppressed, the anger, or let's say you're dating someone and you see that you're sad or lonely or jealous, or you're trying to use someone to fulfill those needs. Those are emotions that come out within us, that live dormant, that lie dormant, and situations are the perfect opportunity to teach us exactly what's living within us. Now, two things happen. Most people see these emotions or see these feelings and they drown it. They get sad or lonely, they call somebody, hey girl, what's going on, boom, boom, boom. They talk to their cousin, their friend, their girlfriend, or they see these emotions and they go out and party, go to a concert, they get drunk, they get high, they drown it, right? But you missed out on a lesson. It's like you have to, when you see these triggers within you, you have to approach them. You have to go towards the storm. So it's actually crazy because the bulls actually run towards the storm, which sounds counterintuitive, but the storm here is what's lying underneath the surface. All the emotions, all the things that are suppressed in our subconscious. We have to go towards that. We have to face that head on. And on the other side, it's just our true self. So again, the analogy of seeing emotions arise within you and drowning it is like being musty and just spraying a cologne. The must is not replaced. You're not replacing the musk. You're not getting rid of the musk. You're just spraying cologne over it. It's like putting a Band-Aid. The problem still exists. So once you identify your triggers, you have to observe without judgment. You have to go towards that. Maybe sit in silence, or maybe observe yourself in similar situations where similar emotions arise, and just observe it. You have to study yourself like a book, okay? Study yourself like a book, and that way you know exactly what situations to avoid. You know exactly what triggers you, what people you're most compatible with, and you have kind of like a better pathway to life. When you start to study yourself, you start to see patterns within yourself. See, everyone spends hundreds and thousands of dollars studying medicine or law or accounting or carpentry or plumbing, whatever it is, but no one studies yourself. No one studies their psychology. No one studies their mind, and that's what we want to do on this channel. We want to open the capabilities of the human mind, of our own human mind. We want to tap into that unchanneled potential. So guys, in summary, how do we live a fulfilling and content life? And we do that by watching ourselves, returning back to ourselves when we were just observers of the world. We were judging, we observed the world with non-judgmental attention. Returning back to that childhood state. And how do you return to that childhood state? You have to study yourself like a book. You have to take this life as a personal study. You have to understand your psychology, understand your triggers, understand what moves you, understand what frustrates you, understand why that is, and you have to observe that without judgment. And that's how you overcome it. So guys, thank you for tuning into this video. I hope you took value to the video. I know we kind of jumped a few different topics, but this channel is about self-actualizing and becoming all that we can be. See you soon. Peace.